Hey everybody, here's Mr. Longo to talk to you about some right triangle trigonometry. Now I want to emphasize the point that this is not being taught as if it's the first time you have seen this. This is just a review so you can handle some of the other stuff that we're about to do this unit. So if you've never seen right triangle trig before, you probably want to go find an intro unit. So right triangle trigonometry. You are familiar with sine, cosine, and tangent. This might be new to you, but we have what's known as a cosecant, secant, and cotangent. And the only thing those are the reciprocals of sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay? So we know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosecant would be hypotenuse over opposite. Okay? So that's just might be new for some of you. Some of you might already know that. So, quick refresher. You got to have three sides to do some of these problems. So we can always use our good buddy, the Pythagorean theorem, to find out what the length of this side is. It would be 3 squared plus x squared is equal to 5 squared. So x squared is equal to 16 after you subtract the 9 from the 25. So this side is equal to 4. So now we need to talk about what is the sine of A. So when you're taking the sine of A, you're standing on angle A, and we have our adjacent, our opposite, and our hypotenuse. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so our answer is 4/5. The cosine of A. Cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse, so it would be 3/5. Now we're talking about tangent of B. When you are talking about standing on a different angle, your hypotenuse will not change, but your opposite and adjacent will. So adjacent means next to. So opposite is the side that doesn't touch the angle. So we have CB and AB. Those both touch angle B. So those are adjacent and hypotenuse. Opposite is the one that doesn't, so side AC. So tangent of B is opposite over adjacent. So that would be 3/4. Okay? So you just have to be careful of which angle you're standing on. For the cosecant of B, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So if sine is opposite over the hypotenuse, sine would be 3/5. Then cosecant would be 5/3. Okay? So you just have to take the reciprocal. You just do it in the opposite order. If we're going to go back and stand on A, secant of A is the reciprocal of the cosine of A. Well, we know that the cosine of A is 3/5, so our secant is 5/3. And finally, the cotangent of B would just be the reciprocal of the tangent of B. So we already know the tangent of B is 3/4, so cotangent would be 4/3. Okay? So you just have to be careful of which angle you are standing on, and then you just know where your opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse are, and you're good to go. One last thing I want to do is refresh your memory on setting up trigonometry to solve for missing angles and sides, and how to type it in your calculator. So the first thing, most important thing, you have to make sure that your calculator is in degrees. If you're in radians, no matter what you do, you're going to get it wrong. So you just click the mode button, highlight degree, and click enter. That'll change your calculator to degrees, and then you can just press quit. So, how do we set these up? Well, basically what you need to do is you need to pick a trig function. That could be sine, cosine, or tangent. And the angle measure always goes right after that, and then it's equal to your side ratio. So that is going to depend on what you have. So it could be sine would be opposite over hypotenuse, and cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So you have to really analyze what you're working with. So for this one, we would be standing on 42. We have an opposite and hypotenuse, so we're going to use sine. And of course, as I said, the angle always goes after it. So then that would be equal to opposite over hypotenuse, so x/10. So we're solving for x here. So if we're solving for x, we have to multiply both sides by x, or by 10, I'm sorry. So we're going to have 10 times the sine of 42 is equal to x after those guys cancel. Now, there's another way that you can memorize that, and really it's whatever works best for you. If we have the sine of 42 is equal to x over 10, when x is on top, top is times. So you just move the 10 to the front, and you do 10 times. Whatever works for you. So you just take your calculator and you just do 10 times the sine of 42. And we click enter. And it says round to the nearest tenth for sides. So since this is a side, we're just going to say that x is equal to 6.7. Okay, so again, this is all review. If this is brand new to you, you want to go find an intro to trig. Next example, we're standing on 31. We have an adjacent and a hypotenuse, so we're going to use cosine of 31 is equal to 5 over x. So we need to talk about when x is on the bottom. So this is the one where we need to turn this into like a reciprocal. So this is over 1. So we need x to be on top. So we're going to flip these and we're going to have 1 over the cosine of 31 is equal to x over 5. To get 5 out of the denominator, we just multiply both sides by 5. And we end up with x is equal to 5 divided by the cosine of 31. Now again, some of you have learned things different ways. The other way you might have learned is if you have the cosine of 31 is equal to 5 over x, if x is in the denominator, denominator means divide. So you bring the 5 to the front and you do 5 divided by the cosine of 31. Again, doesn't matter to me how you do it as long as you know how to type it in your calculator and get the correct answer. So we just take our calculator, press 5 divided by the cosine of 31. We click enter and we get that x is 5.8. And that makes sense. And you always want to double check to make sure that your answer makes sense. The hypotenuse is the longest side. If you would have gotten something smaller than 5, you obviously did something wrong because the hypotenuse is always the longest side of a right triangle. Last example, we're standing on angle x. So we have an opposite and adjacent. So we have the tangent of x is equal to the opposite over adjacent. So that's 6 over 10. In order to find an angle measure, you have to remove the tangent to get x by itself. To do that, you have to do inverse trig, or in this case, it's inverse tangent to both sides. So tangent of -1 will cancel out our tangent. So we're going to have x equal to inverse tangent of 6 divided by 10. Now, the nice thing is our calculator already has that. In order to use inverse trig, you just have to press the second button. So we just type second tangent. And then inside we have 6 divided by 10. You don't have to simplify or anything. Your calculator can handle it. And then you get 30.963. But the directions say round to the nearest minute. So in an earlier video, all you have to do is press second angle, number 4. And that'll change this to degrees, minutes, and seconds. Since 49 seconds is above half a minute, our answer is x is equal to 30 degrees and 58 minutes. Okay? So that's it for a quick review on right triangle trigonometry. This is Longo and I'm out. See you, bye.